And what are kind of the markers that help you determine whether you've got a marketing plan, a sales plan, or a go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So for me, a strategy is sort of a longer term um, strategy, right? I mean, it's a plan that you're going to put in place, and it's maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the road, right? So that's kind of a really good indicator. Is if you're looking at how to reach your revenue target for a quarter, that's probably not a go-to-market strategy, right? Because you need to be thinking more holistically. The
Mhm.
other area that I always find really interesting is when I look at a go-to-market strategy, I want to think about it across the entire customer journey, right? So what's happening in product, what's happening in sales, what's happening in marketing, what's happening in customer success and beyond once the customer is purchased and onboarded. And if the strategy is only focused on one of those pieces, again, it's not a strategy, right? it's
Mhm.
it's a plan. And again, those are great, right? But you need to start with your strategy, then start building your tactical and components in the plan around that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect place to go from here. So we understand kind of looking at it, looking and kind of assessing, auditing what we've got so far. We can identify like, okay, no, we've got a couple of quarter sales plan here. We don't have a
Right.
go-to-market strategy. So
Yeah.
first, let's build that long-term plan. Let's figure out who all the stakeholders are in so that it maps to this customer journey.
Yeah.
And let's build the strategy. Walk us through how to build that from scratch if we are doing that.
Yeah, and it depends on the structure. Some of your guests have talked about this as well, like who actually owns the go-to-market strategy, right? And at the end of the day, it's your CEO. They are responsible for the growth of your company. So they should own the strategy. But of course, they don't have the time to sort of, get into the nuances of it. They can say, this is what I want at the end of the day, but generally most companies will have other leaders take control of that strategy. And so I think the first key thing to think about is there a true owner of that strategy, right? And it could be the CMO, it could be the CRO, it could be the CEO, COO. Oftentimes, people own pieces of it, but there's not one person at the end of the day who actually owns that. And all of these folks come in and out of the mix to help guide the strategy along the way, which is really critical. And you definitely want that. So for me, it's really figuring out, I call it a tiger team, right? Who is on this team, whether it's leaders or executors or managers that are actually going to think about what this longer term strategy looks like, and what those different teams that work with them, what their responsibilities are going to be. And again, it can be a mix of people. I've worked in larger organizations like at Oracle, where we pulled in like 50 different people and had this huge team because we're going to launch a big solution. Or if you're a startup, it could maybe just be like 3 or 4 people on this team. But it's really important to sort of first formulate who is going to be on that team, because that is where that alignment and collaboration starts with. And I think that that's like a really critical area, and really like have an owner put stakes in the ground, and start really owning what that strategy looks like. And then I think from my standpoint, just because I've been doing this a long time, like building out those tactical plans, that's kind of the easy part. So
Mm.
it's really trying to get your hands around, who's going to own the strategy, who's going to guide the strategy. And then after you've done that, I think it's really important to, again, to think about how often are you going to look at it or reflect on it or measure. I'm not saying, again, that you iterate on it every quarter or anything like that, but if you're always thinking about what your customers are doing, where they are in the buying process, and how they're using your product, you definitely want to make sure that you're incorporating some of that feedback, again, as part of that longer term strategy. Could be
Mhm.
features, functionality, could be pricing, could be how you're implementing it. It could even be beyond that and looking at your entire tech stack or ecosystem and which partners you need to bring in to either implement or sort of extend the life of your product or solution.